We haven't signed a contract, and so the fight was never confirmed. We were talking about it, and no injuries, man. That's bullshit. We're fighting Khamzat. We're actually waiting for the contract, so it's going to be soon.
I told you it would be impossible per the definition because he never had signed for a fight. Couldn't cancel it. Couldn't cancel a fight that was never booked in the first place.
As a response to the tweet.
Yeah, it's actually ridiculous how many times he pulled out. And then if you look at just his last 6 fights, or his last 6 supposed fights, he pulled out of 3 of them.
The middleweight division is buzzing at the moment as Dricus Du Plessis has put an end to his injury rumors, providing a positive update about his fight with Khamzat. With speculation running wild, the champion made a bold statement, confirming what's really going on. So, there were a lot of rumors over the past 2 days that Du Plessis is injured and won't fight with Khamzat, but he finally responded to all the rumors about his injury on Instagram, stating that none of them were true. He confirmed that he and the UFC had already discussed a fight date and opponent, and the June fight was never signed. Du Plessis clarified he did not pull out of any fight, asserting that as the champion, he decides when he fights, and contenders simply show up when told. He ended by teasing an upcoming fight announcement. DDP said on Instagram, "Okay, so everyone had their opinions and rumors and stories about a shin break and injuries, etc." He wrote on Instagram, "I found it all very entertaining. Unfortunately, none of it is true myself, and UFC already discussed a fight date and opponent. The June fight was never signed. I did not pull out of any fight. I am the champion. I know when I fight you as a contender, just show up when we tell you to. The fight announcement coming soon, stay tuned." Dricus Du Plessis' coach, Morn Visser, also said they haven't signed a contract and the fight was never officially confirmed. He explained they were only discussing it and there were no injuries involved. He called the injury rumors bullshit. According to him, they are ready to fight and are just waiting for the contract, which should come soon. However, he confirmed it will not happen during International Fight Week since the UFC already has something else planned for that event. While nothing is 100% confirmed yet, Visser made it clear they are expecting the fight and are just waiting on the paperwork.
We haven't signed a contract, and so the fight was never confirmed. We were talking about it, and no injuries, man. That's bullshit. We're fighting Khamzat. We're actually waiting for the contract, so it's going to be soon. It's definitely not going to be International Fight Week. They've got something else planned for that. I'm sure everybody knows about what they've got planned. Also not 100% confirmed, but we're fighting Khamzat. We're waiting for the contract, so it's a done deal.
Morn Visser expressed his concerns about Khamzat Chimaev's commitment to fighting. He pointed out that Chimaev has only fought 3 times in the last 3 years, while his fighter, Dricus Du Plessis, has fought 3 times in just over a year, each time in a title fight. Visser emphasized the hard nature of those fights, with 2 being 5-rounders and 1 being a 4-rounder. In contrast, he believes Chimaev is more interested in the spotlight, calling him a movie star rather than someone who truly wants to fight.
His thing is pulling out. He likes to be a movie star, man. Look at his career. I think he fought 3 times in the last 3 years. Dricus has fought 3 times in the last just over a year. I think call it 13, 14 months. We fought 3 fights, and they were all 3 were title fights. It was 2 5-rounders and a 4-rounder, all hard fights, title fights. This Oaks fought 3 times in the last 3 years. So he's all about the show. I don't think he really wants to do this. He's a movie star.
Before this injury scene, Dricus Du Plessis already admitted that a fight with Khamzat Chimaev was definitely being discussed behind the scenes. He confirmed that both sides talked about it and the fight didn't fall through because of him or Khamzat. He believed there were some issues between the UFC and Khamzat, though he wasn't sure about the details. Timing also seemed to be a factor. Du Plessis said he clearly told the UFC that he wanted the fight, but they couldn't make it happen. Instead, they set up the fight with Ikram Aliskerov.
To be clear, you were never offered a fight against Khamzat.
It was on the tables for sure, but you know, we talked about it, but it wasn't from my side or from his side where the fight didn't happen. It was, I think there was some issues with the UFC and Khamzat, I'm not sure, and timing I think timing also played a big role, but there were conversations, and I said that's the fight I want. So let's do it, and they couldn't make it happen. So Strickland is the fight they did.
UFC legend Michael Bisping was excited to see this fight getting confirmed. He believes Khamzat Chimaev has a unique aura, comparing him to a Bond villain with real fighting skills. He pointed out Chimaev's dominance, especially in the first round against Robert Whittaker, and noted that aside from the Usman and Burns fights, Chimaev has ragdolled his opponents. On the other side is Dricus Du Plessis, the current champion, with strong national support and multiple title defenses. Bisping emphasized the tension between them, calling it a huge fight.
There's just something about Khamzat Chimaev. He has this aura to him. I mean, marketing-wise, and it's not marketing, but if you were to market like a superstar, a bad guy, a real-life Bond villain, and then combine him with ridiculously capable skills, you know, being able to crush the teeth of Robert Whittaker in the first round and just dominate everybody, and he's pretty much done that. All right, we know about the Usman fight and the Gilbert Burns fights, but other than that, I mean, he is just ragdolled everybody. And then there's Dricus Du Plessis, who's a champion now, who's had a lot of attention, who's defended the belt on a couple of occasions, that has a whole nation behind him, and they don't like each other either. Yeah, that is a big fight.
Caio Borralho, who called out Khamzat after Du Plessis' injury, also gave his verdict for this fight. He believes Khamzat Chimaev will win because he thinks no one is truly preparing for him. He pointed out that fighters bring in wrestlers to train for takedown defense, but Chimaev doesn't follow traditional wrestling techniques. Instead, he practices MMA wrestling and cage work, which is a different style. Borralho emphasized that understanding Chimaev's system, patterns, and next moves is key to preparing for him. He feels that none of Chimaev's opponents have fully grasped this, and that's why Chimaev will likely beat Dricus Du Plessis.
I think Khamzat is gonna win because I don't see anyone preparing properly for Khamzat. They are bringing wrestlers to train them to defend takedowns and all that, but Khamzat doesn't do the normal stuff, you know, like that. It doesn't care like if you're gonna bring like the best wrestler to take you down or something like that, because Khamzat doesn't do wrestling. He does MMA wrestling. He does MMA cage work. It's different. You need to understand his system, what he wants next, what's his patterns and all that. You need to understand this first, and then you start to prepare for him. So I don't think any of these guys had this reading about his style and everything. And I think Khamzat is gonna win from Dricus.
Caio Borralho acknowledged that he has always thought Dricus Du Plessis would lose, but Du Plessis keeps proving him wrong. He said he'll never doubt him again, except when they fight. Borralho is confident he would beat Du Plessis in a fight. He pointed out that if Du Plessis survives the early rounds and manages to land punches on Khamzat Chimaev, he could have a chance to win. However, he believes that stylistically, Du Plessis doesn't match up well against Chimaev.
Yeah, but you know, I always said that Dricus was gonna get his ass whooped, but he always won. So I will never doubt him again. You know what I mean? Only when I fight him, I know that I'll beat him. But any other guy, I'm not gonna shake this match. You know, like I'm not gonna, because if he survives 1.5 round and he keeps doing and start to throw punches to Khamzat and all that, he can win, but I think stylistically doesn't match at all.
Mike Perry doubts a fight between Dricus Du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev will materialize. He believes Du Plessis would come out on top if it does happen, but questions whether Khamzat would even agree to it. According to Perry, Khamzat is unlikely to accept a matchup unless he feels fully confident in his chances of winning. He implied that Khamzat may see Du Plessis as too risky or stylistically difficult, which could be why the fight hasn't been booked.
I think DDP wins if they fight, which it's hard to say they even will fight. I don't see Khamzat Chimaev taking a fight that he doesn't see himself having the ability to win. I see that him and his team will pick their fights very carefully.
Meanwhile, former UFC champion Henry Cejudo believes Khamzat Chimaev could beat anyone, pointing to his dominant performance against Robert Whittaker as proof of his skill. However, he thinks Dricus Du Plessis presents a unique challenge with his non-stop pace and scrambling ability. Cejudo emphasized that against Du Plessis, you need to be prepared for a long fight, either a 3 or 5 round battle. While Cejudo respects Du Plessis, he feels Chimaev's intensity and relentless pressure would ultimately be too much for him, just as he initially underestimated Whitaker's tenacity.
Does Khamzat beat DDP?
Man, Khamzat could beat anybody in the world in about a round. Super impressed with what he did to Robert Whitaker. I don't see that against DDP. DDP's scrambly, man. You're gonna need to really be able to pace yourself for 5 rounds. And with DDP's train just continue to keep rolling and he's still steaming and his train's still hot. It depends on how long DDP wants to take a break. You're gonna have to prepare, man, for a guy like DDP. You're gonna need a 3-rounder or a 5-rounder to get ready, but I don't see it. I just don't see it. I think DDP's too, I used to think he was the sloppiest thing on planet Earth, and I thought the same thing about Merab until they bring that volume and just the tenacity. It changes everything.
Former MMA fighter Din Thomas believes Dricus Du Plessis would beat Khamzat Chimaev. He explained that Chimaev is like a sprinter and extremely dangerous in short bursts. In his opinion, if fights were only 1 5-minute round, Chimaev could beat anyone in any weight class. However, in a 5-round championship fight, Din doesn't think Chimaev can keep up the pace he's best at. He sees Du Plessis as durable and smart enough to survive the early storm, and once the fight goes into deeper rounds, he thinks Khamzat won't be able to keep up.
You think Dricus beats Khamzat?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
I do. I really do. I think Khamzat is a sprinter. I think if you were to make fights 1 5-minute round, Khamzat beats anybody in the world, any weight class. But you can't fight championship level fights for 5 rounds at the pace where he's at his best. If he fights like that at his best, I think Dricus is so durable and he's so smart that he'll be able to withstand that. Now they're swimming in deep water, and Khamzat can't swim that deep.
Wow.
Din Thomas believes that by the 3rd round, Khamzat Chimaev would start to struggle against Dricus Du Plessis. Realizing that Du Plessis isn't going away, he suggested that even if Chimaev paced himself better, Du Plessis would still continue to pressure him. Thomas emphasized that pacing is crucial, pointing out that cardio isn't just about endurance, but about managing the pace based on the skill set you have. He explained that if a fighter has a limited skill set and is put in uncomfortable situations, their cardio will suffer. Du Plessis, according to Thomas, would be able to keep the pressure on Chimaev, especially as the fight goes deeper.
Yeah.
So what do you think? It just goes into the championship rounds and he figures them out?
Yeah. I think that by the 3rd round, Khamzat's like, all right, I don't really know. I can't, this guy's not going away. Wow. And also too, is if Khamzat does, let's say he does pace himself a little better, Dricus will just pour it on him.
Right.
So I think that pacing is a big factor. We always talk about this cardio thing, but cardio is really just being able to manage whatever pace you have based on the skill set you have. That's really what it comes down to. Like if you have a very limited skill set and you're forced to be in situations that you're not comfortable in, you're going to have bad cardio. But when you have a very well-rounded skill set and you can pace yourself better, you're gonna have good cardio. So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Michael Venom Page also praised Khamzat Chimaev, but noted that his energy tends to dip after a strong first round. He called Dricus Du Plessis an underrated fighter with impressive muscular endurance, able to maintain a high pace throughout the fight. Page believes Du Plessis could be the one to beat Chimaev, but only if he survives the early rounds. If Du Plessis can avoid getting finished in the 1st or 2nd round, he could give Chimaev serious problems.
I don't see anybody beating him.
I like Khamzat too. I think he's been really incredible.
Yeah, definitely. He looked better in the last fight. Obviously, it didn't last long, so we didn't get to see it, but normally he's like Crash Bandicoot the 1st round, and then his energy dips.
DDP has been interesting, though.
I feel like Dricus is very underrated for a belt holder here.
But that's the thing. If anybody was to, it would be Dricus, because that is the muscular endurance. If you look at like some of the fights nowadays, Merab, Dricus, these guys that have the muscular endurance to be fighting at 7 the whole fight. And you got someone like Merab that's 7-8 from start to finish, mate, that's difficult to deal with. And Dricus seems exactly the same. He's like 7-8 the whole time. So if you don't kill him and get him out of there in that 1st round, 2nd round, then you're gonna have a problem for the rest of the fight.
Ikram Aliskerov believes the next title fight could be between Dricus Du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev. In his opinion, Khamzat would win. He views Khamzat as a complete fighter with strong wrestling, grappling, and striking, especially based on his recent performances. He also respects Du Plessis, saying he's not a simple opponent and often proves people wrong by winning fights they expect him to lose. While he thinks it would be a great matchup, he's hoping Khamzat comes out on top.
It seems like the next title fight might be Du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev. If that happens, who do you think wins?
My opinion, Chimaev, I think, is good, very good. You see this last fight was Whittaker, and not last, all his fight, he's like, he have everything. He have good wrestling, grappling, and striking. I think, but he's a not simple guy, Du Plessis. You know, all the fight, all people think about this fight he lose, this fight is, but he not lose. He's win anybody, brother. It's a good fight. It's a good fight. But I think, I hope Chimaev win.
Bo Nickel thinks the potential title fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus Du Plessis would be a tough one. He pointed out that Du Plessis has the size advantage and likely better cardio, and he feels their striking is pretty even. However, Nickel believes Chimaev has a significant advantage in grappling. Considering all these factors, he would still give the edge to Chimaev because of his grappling skills.
The next title fight's Khamzat versus DDP. Who takes that one?
Tough fight. Tough fight. I think that, Dricus has the size. He probably has a little better cardio. I think striking is pretty even. I would say, Khamzat obviously has a massive advantage in the grappling. All that considered, I think I'd give the edge to Khamzat because of that wrestling advantage. We really haven't seen...
Bo Nickel emphasized that Khamzat Chimaev's wrestling is unlike anything most fighters are used to, and Du Plessis wouldn't be able to fully game plan for it. He explained that the strength and style of Chimaev's grappling is something Du Plessis has never experienced before, and the only two fighters in the sport who could replicate that feel are Chimaev and himself. Nickel believes this gives Chimaev the edge in the fight. He also mentioned that the longer the fight goes, the more advantage Du Plessis would have, but based on Chimaev's impressive performance against Robert Whittaker, Nickel would still give the edge to Chimaev overall.
It's just, you just don't get like strong grapplers like that competing. You're not used to that. Like, no matter what Dricus is going to do, he's not going to be able to game plan for that, and he's not going to have felt that from anyone. Really, the only two guys I believe in the sport that can give that feel are me and Khamzat. So I think that gives him an edge, that gives him an advantage. The longer the fight goes, the bigger the advantage is for Dricus. But seeing Khamzat in his last fight against Whittaker, he was very impressive. And, all in all, it's going to be a great fight, but I would give the edge to Khamzat.
Former MMA fighter Yoel Romero finds it tough to pick a winner between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus Du Plessis, but he gives Chimaev a 60% chance of winning and Du Plessis a 40% chance. He leans toward Chimaev mainly because of his wrestling, which he considers extremely dangerous. Romero pointed to Chimaev's performance against Robert Whittaker as proof of his top-tier wrestling, calling it Olympic level.
Who do you think wins between him and Khamzat? Who would you pick in that fight? It's a hard one, isn't it?
It's very difficult, but 16-40 chance. 16% for Chimaev and 40% for Du Plessis. Yeah, that's what.
So you think Chimaev? You're kind of slightly leaning towards Chimaev. Yes. Why? Why do you think?
Wrestling. The wrestling for Chimaev right now is very, very dangerous. Yes. I see the move where he make it. We'll take it. Robert fight is another level. It's an Olympic level.
Alexander Gustafsson described Khamzat Chimaev as naturally strong, saying his power isn't forced or overly trained. It comes from raw, natural ability. He credited Khamzat's strength to his genetics, calling it raw power that he's just born with. According to Gustafsson, training with Khamzat gives people the full experience of how powerful he really is.
You're like 2-3 weight classes above him. How strong is he? Because I've seen he's a good training partner for you.
Yeah, no, he's very natural, strong, and he has very strong genes, and he just comes with raw power. All his power just comes from nature.
Just natural.
Right? Natural, yeah. So guys, to get the full All-Stars experience.
Roman Dolidze described Khamzat Chimaev as a very skillful fighter who hits hard and works hard. He mentioned that their striking styles are similar, both going at it with full intensity. However, Dolidze noted that Chimaev likely has the highest level of wrestling in their division. While he doesn't think Chimaev's ground game is at an elite level, he believes Chimaev has the skills to finish anyone, especially when he's on top.
Assuming it is Khamzat and DDP, who do you think wins that fight?
Khamzat is a very skillful fighter. Sometimes he can hit hard, and he is a hard worker. We are in striking style. We are like very similar. We just go hard, 100%. But Khamzat have a high, probably highest level of wrestling in our division. Great guy with great skills of grappling. Not super high level on the ground, but he has skills to finish anybody on there on top.
Roman Dolidze believes Khamzat Chimaev will likely take Dricus Du Plessis down and finish him in the first couple of rounds, securing a win. However, he acknowledged that Du Plessis is a tough fighter and deserves to be champion. Dolidze thinks if the fight goes past 2 rounds, Du Plessis could take over, as Chimaev might struggle with the pace. If Chimaev finishes early, he wins, but if it goes longer, Du Plessis has a better chance.
And if he will manage, and I think he will take down, he can take down Du Plessis in the first couple rounds, and he will finish him in these couple rounds, I will say that Khamzat will win. But if fights will go longer, and it's also can happen because Du Plessis is not an easy fighter. Du Plessis, I'm not saying that he is easy fight. Du Plessis deserved to be champion. He did enough and everything to be there on top level. It's just styles, you know. If Khamzat will get job done in 2 rounds, Khamzat will win. After 2 rounds, I think Du Plessis will take the fight.
So there you have it. The hype around Dricus Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev is real, and opinions are split. While some think Chimaev's relentless pace and wrestling give him the edge, others believe Du Plessis' durability and cardio could be the key to an upset. One thing's for sure, it's going to be an exciting fight whenever it happens. What do you think? Who's your pick? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates about UFC. Catch you in the next one.